Yesterday, the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has presented the budget for 2022 and 2023, 23 and for 24. In this latest budget, what is there for defense services or armed forces in the budget? If you look at the main features in the budget, overall, to my opinion, it is one of the most prudent budget for the defense and services or armed forces. And it appears that they have factored in all the factors like the international situation, the national, the regional context. So all things sort of reflected. Seems some very good homework has been done preparing the defense and strategic defense budget. So overall, if you see the budget, and also the features compared to the last year, the 2022-23, in fact, it was a sort of a COVID period, and economies was still struggling to come out of the normal phase. So this year seems that overall, if you look at the overall budget profile, that it seems that there is a slight decrease in terms of the allocation of budget, but there are area specific rise in the budget allocations. For instance, I would see there are three categories. One is the overall budget allocation. There was not very considerable increase in terms of the budget allocation. It is a sort of a 13% hike as compared to the previous year budget. So now it is like 5.95 lakh crores allocated to the three services and other allied services. And we all know that the major chunk of the budget allotted budgets, for instance, this year it is projected that almost 1.95 lakh crore will go for the salaries and pensions and allowances. And this will, in my opinion, given the fact the Agniveer was launched the last year, it seems to be that in the next year this element of the budget will see considerable decrease in the coming budget, the salary component and allowance component. And Agniveer is going to sort of slim down the armed forces in terms of even the expenditure as well. So it's a sort of a cost cutting, you can say. This point. The second part is the capital outlay that is projected for the mostly it is prepared for the considering the threat perception or the level of threat perception. So we all know that in the many comments and reviews of the budget has been coming in the media and other forums saying that the China is there and it's been more than 35 months. The China has been continue the provoking Indian along the borders. And at this context, why there is not very considerable rise in the capital outlay, and whether that shows that there will be a sort of the defense modernization process is going to be very slow and steady. I would say this particular thing is a very prudent strategy in terms of allocating the budget allocations. If you see what is happening in the last 1 year in the Ukraine conflict, and how the dynamics of the war is changing, it seems that the modernization is not going to help in a tremendous way in terms of any conflict, such conventional conflict happens. The Ukrainians are suffering from tanks and they want more tanks. So the conventional arms and ammunition still plays a crucial role in the war. The modernization, when you say modernization, means the procurement of the strategic weapons and the weapon systems, assets and radars. I think that the government has started this initiation in 2015 onwards. So we have got the S-400, the ballistic defense system, missile defense system we have, and I think the one batch has been delivered, and the other rest of them will be delivered. Hopefully by 2023 we'll be having all the systems that we have purchased will be delivered. The second aspect, in terms of the Air Force, we have got the first batch of Rafales, which has already been delivered. That is quite sufficient to take care of any threat in terms of the strategic level. Other than that, we have a strong strategic weapon system and weaponry system, and so we do not need to further more enhance or increase. One of the interesting thing which I observed in the budget allocations to the capital outlays, the Navy got slightly less compared to the previous year, slight reduction. So the talks about having more carrier or strategic nuclear submarines, I think that will go very slow pace. I feel maybe next year there may be a sudden increase. So whether this will have an impact on modernization, the much touted defense modernization process, I don't think so. Whether this will have a modernization process, because we understand, especially in the strategic community, we think that modernization means the importing the advanced weapon system from the international market. This has to be seen from the last 1 year. The prime minister has initiated the scheme, the Atmanirbhar Bharat in the defense production and manufacturing sector. I think that momentum has been taken shape, and last 1 year of the efforts, many Indian companies started investing in the defense sectors, manufacturing some of the weapons and weapon system. Need not to be a sort of a very modern advanced weapon system, or at least to take care of the existing or to maintain the weapon system like artillery guns or the tanks and radars and other things in collaborations with the international industries. So this is just begin the process. So it will also have some impact. Maybe next 5 years we can say only after the 5 years of assessing the impact of Atmanirbhar Bharat in terms of reducing our capital outlay for the foreign mega purchases in strategic weapons. So modernization we have to see in terms of the structural way, that how the modernization happens with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we becoming more in terms of the manufacturing in the different sectors, and India emerging as a manufacturing of defense goods that will cater to even the developing and underdeveloped countries needs of arms and the armaments. So we started exporting some of the systems and weapon systems which we have been produced through the various industries, collaborations with various industries. The second aspect, when it comes to the research and development, so the DRDO got a slight increase, like 6.7% increase in terms of budget allocation as compared to the earlier, the previous year. And this is also we see from we have to see from the Atmanirbhar Bharat perspective. The many companies, the private companies, since they have been roped in to build their R&D, research and development setup in their factories in collaboration with reputed institutes, Institute of Eminence like IITs and other national reputed institutes. So this will also reduce the dependence on DRDO and DRDO. So that will also see in another 5 years we will see the some sort of reduction in R&Ds in the DRDO. More investments will be in the private sectors, and that will also cater to the need of the armed forces preparedness. Suppose if now we see we learn from the Ukrainian and Russian crisis. How the Ukrainians are managing the crisis. Even the Russia is considered to be the largest arm production producer. Also looking for some parts and weapons and weapon system, since we don't know when the war is going to end. So learning from this experience, I think we need to be self-reliance is the only option for Indian armed forces to be better prepared and to be modernized. That is what in my mind, and the budget reflects that indicates or sort of gives a direction for the next 5 years, that how this capital outlay and expenditures, especially on the pensions and salaries, where the almost 1.5 lakh, 1.95 lakh is being spent on pensions and salaries and allowances. So having said this thing, whether this will have impact on India's national security in terms of addressing the threats, the immediate threats from China, this will see. So you analyze that the regional, how the China and other, you can say the adversaries, including Pakistan, they are in their budget. So the Stockholm Institute of Peace Research Institute comes out with the annual report on how nation state spends on defense. So if you see the last 3 years of 3 years report, China has also started sort of reducing their more allocations in the defense budget. There is a slight decrease or the fall in terms of investment in the allocation of budgets to the defense forces. So they are also started doing this prudent way to cut down the cost, the defense cost. particularly on the recurring cost and the expenditures part, and also capital outlay. And they have also started the self-reliance in the domestic industry productions a long time ago in collaborations with almost 20 years back. They have started, and that is yielding results now. So they don't have to, now they're becoming an exporters to countries like Pakistan, buying J7 fighter jets, even the nuclear, the submarines, the aircraft carriers, the radars, all the equipments, including the tanks and other equipments. China is now becoming a manufacturer or producer of armed goods. So, having said that, the China is also sort of reducing their budget, investment has gone down. As compared to coming back to the Pakistan, our one of the advisories, very immediate neighbor, the IMF has recently also mentioned, cautioned Pakistan that reduce your defense budget, because major chunk of the budget goes for the Pakistan armed forces, and that is because of the internal political dynamics, that army continue to show that India is an emerging existential threat, and so that they can cut a considerable share of budget from the main budget. So overall, if you given the global financial conditions and the Ukraine-Russia war, there is a sort of a global phenomena or global pattern that some the countries in the Asian countries are slowly reducing or the budget allocations to defense forces or armed forces, but that doesn't mean that that would compromise their national security. Now, coming back to the China threat, I don't think so. If you look from the China as a threat and the military threat, of course, you cannot rule out that China as a threat. But as of now, if you look at as of now, it poses a military challenge along the borders. We never know whether the conflict will be escalated, because China is also facing the same sort of domestic financial crisis, and also the international global financial conditions situation is not conducive. The trade is not completely recovered from the post-pandemic era. So all this considers that this is sort of a very prudent budget, the defense budget that has been presented yesterday as for the defense budget. So what will be the projection for the next 1 year in terms of, in my analysis, it's sort of a prognosis, I would see. There is a prospects for reduction in the budget allocations to the pensions and salaries allowances once the Agniveer, which has already been started, I think a couple of weeks back, the Prime Minister had inducted the new Agniveers into the three tri-services. So that will also reduce and also makes your army better prepared and very small and efficient in emerging threats like military threats, conventional threats. As far as the strategic weapons and weapon systems are concerned, of course, we have started this Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we continue to invest and encourage the companies and the new startups in the defense sectors. I think that will also going to pay off in the longer run. Maybe after 5 years or 6 years, we can see the result, like the investments in 2016 and 17, the decision taken on the S-400 and Rafale, which has also sort of paid off now as a result that we don't have to continue to invest more on that. So there is a sort of a long-term thinking as far as the armed forces are concerned, that is reflecting in the budget presented day before yesterday on the armed forces, for the armed forces.